Another Shane Van Gisbergen win at Chicago calls for a Shane Van Glizzy. How's it going, y'all? My name is Eric. Welcome to Out of the Groove. That was the most pathetic Chicago dog the universe has ever seen, but I had to commit to the bit the best I possibly could. We have so much to get to. Chicago Street Race, July 4th weekend, year 3, bad calls, playoff bubble trouble, old rivalries resurface. We will cover all of that and much more, but let's begin with SVG. TNT pointed out that he's just the second driver ever, the first since Kyle Busch 9 years ago, to win the Xfinity pole and race and the Cup pole and race in the same weekend. There's not much I can say about Shane Van Gisbergen that hasn't been said already. He is obviously the best, most talented, most consistent road course racer in the NASCAR Cup Series currently, and especially when the series heads to these newer road courses, Mexico City, Chicago, which I know it's in year 3 now, but this was the first completely dry Chicago street race. That's when SVG truly has a tremendous advantage. I think they pointed this out in the post-race show, and we're exactly right. Next weekend at Sonoma, Watkins Glen later this summer, SVG's still great, will still be one of, if not the outright favorites, but his advantage is smaller. Just goes to show how important experience is even at this top level of stock car racing. There's a ton of different experience levels at different track types, different styles throughout the Cup Series field. SVG's strength is road and street courses. He adapts to new configurations quicker than anyone else. He is really freaking good. And now he has 2 wins on the season. He's won 2 of the first 3 road courses of the year. He now has 10 playoff points. Plus, how many stage wins does he have? He has 1, I believe. So that's 11 stage points so far for SVG. That's more stage points than like Chase Briscoe, more than Joey Logano would have if the playoffs began today. That's significant for sure. Once again, like we said post Mexico City, this is why Trackhouse hired him, and this is why he's staying on next year. Win and you're in makes SVG's skill set even more valuable, because Shane Van Gisbergen, I think even after this race, he's 27th in points. No good, no bueno, but because he has a win now too, he is locked into that final 16, greater payout at the end of the year. Trackhouse made the smart business decision, putting Shane Van Gisbergen in the number 88 full-time this season. Once again, a very impressive performance. Though, to Michael McDowell's credit, at times today, SVG did look beatable, as McDowell said a few days ago. Michael McDowell qualified on the front row, actually took the lead from SVG in the opening lap, led the first 31 laps of today's race, nearly the entire first half, before he was forced to retire due to a mechanical issue. The throttle was sticking, had to pull off the track while leading. Brutal end to a promising day for the Spire Motorsports veteran. McDowell entered this race with finishes, I believe, of 5th and 7th at the Chicago Street Race. He is a tremendous road course racer, won the Indy road course race 2 years ago. He's brought that skill set to Spire and Chevrolet, didn't miss a beat. He had something for Shane Van Gisbergen today, but unfortunately never got a chance to show it in the second half. Once McDowell fell out of this race, it was really just a question of would SVG's strategy hold up against, say, Tyler Reddick, who pit late for fresh tires and then rocketed through the top 10, top 15 to get to 3rd in the closing stretch. Would the cautions time out properly? They did at Mexico City. At Mexico City, the cautions timed out perfectly for Shane Van Gisbergen. He probably wins that race anyways, but the cautions took some of his contenders out of contention late. Once Michael McDowell was forced to the garage, the race was in Shane Van Gisbergen's control. He gets the win. McDowell ultimately finishes 32nd. Goodness gracious, tough break for him. We'll look at some other playoff bubble drivers in a moment, but now that we've talked about the winner, let's work chronologically. We'll go all the way back to the very beginning. The opening pace laps were trouble for William Byron, regular season points leader who's been so consistent most of the year, but is going through a rough stretch. Began Saturday when he wiped out, crashed late in practice. He was the fast car in practice, but made a mistake, got damage. The team was able to repair the car overnight, but had to start this race from the rear with many of their teammates due to unapproved adjustments. And on the opening pace laps, Byron was having issues with the clutch, I believe, other mechanical troubles. I'm not sure he even turned a lap today. He finished 40th dead last. Brutal for William Byron. We'll look at the playoff bubble points in a moment, but just to talk about the regular season standings, just a few weeks ago, Byron had like an 80-plus point lead. Now, William Byron's points lead is down to 13 points over his teammate Chase Elliott, and now Kyle Larson is in the picture as well, minus 19. Shoot, even Hamlin and Reddick now are within a one race worth of striking distance, 43, 47 points back respectively. So this is now 4 finishes of 27th or worse in the last 5 weeks for William Byron. Like I said, the speed this year, extremely consistent, but right now they are going through a rough patch. Sonoma on deck could be tricky. We've seen this team go through a summer slump in the past. Let's hope that's not the case this year. Again, as consistent as they've been, only 1 win on the season. It was the season opening Daytona 500. This is a team that desperately wants to stack a few more playoff points before the postseason. Haven't done that the last couple of weeks. Again, working chronologically, on lap 4, Carson Hocevar, great qualifying effort, P3, missed the apex, clipped the inside wall, spun in front of the pack in the narrowest section of track. Half a dozen or more cars piled in a parking lot there on Michigan Avenue. Ended Carson Hocevar's day early. Ended Will Brown's day, the Australian Supercars driver who traveled across the Pacific Ocean to compete in his first Cup Series race of 2025. His day ended early. That's brutal. Brad Keselowski taken out. Good for my in-season challenge predictions. Ty Dillon, the 32 seed now, has upset Hamlin, and now he's upset Brad Keselowski. Ty Dillon's into the Elite 8 as a result of Keselowski's unlucky DNF. Daniel Suarez piled in. Austin Dillon piled in, who qualified well. Dillon came over the radio immediately after the incident and said, let me find the quote, "Hocevar is the biggest dumbass in the sport." Ooh, harsh, but the frustration is justified. Carson Hocevar has so much speed. Again, qualified top 5. He has a raw feel for the car that honestly few other Cup Series drivers can match, in my opinion. But he's still oh so young, sophomore season. He still makes mistakes. He is prone to overstepping, getting himself and sometimes others into trouble. It especially sucks when his mistakes take out other innocent drivers, but I guess all you can hope for is that he learns from it. I know we've said that about Carson a lot the past year or so. Hope he learns from this. Hope he learns from that. A lot of mistakes. Hope he learns from it. Just pushing really hard. On lap 4 to miss the apex that bad, we didn't see a pileup like that the rest of the day. Tough break for a lot of drivers who had decent qualifying efforts today early. Lap 4, gosh. Immediately after that wreck, during the red flag, Chris Buescher, who was up in the top 5, great road course racer, best average finish at road courses in the next gen of anyone, of any Cup Series driver, came over the radio with electrical problems. So that was, McDowell later had mechanical issues, Chris Buescher had mechanical issues. A lot of problems for some pre-race favorites. Actually, I don't think Buescher ever went to the garage. I know he spent some extra time on pit road. He ended up rebounding to finish 18th in this race despite those early issues. Still got eliminated in his bracket matchup against Zane Smith, so that's another one of my final 4 picks from a couple weeks ago out. Anyway, the opening stint was hectic, tumultuous for many, obviously. Michael McDowell earned a stage win today. Even Ryan Blaney in stage 2 earned an additional playoff point. That is huge. Let's take a look at some of the top finishers that'll trigger a few other storylines. Ty Gibbs finishes second. Might be a surprise to some, not me. Many of you questioned why I had Ty Gibbs in my top 10 power rankings last week. This is why. His last few finishes have been really good, spending more time up front. He's a great young road course racer. Proved that once again today. He also is Chris Gabehart, one of the best crew chiefs of the past decade, on the pit box, calling strategy. Ty Gibbs, on schedule all day, comes home second. He needs to win. You look at where he's at in points. He has to win a race. Sonoma next weekend could be a great opportunity. Sucks to come up just short once more, but the speed is much improved. I think there's more confidence now within that entire organization, that whole team. His teammates have all won to lock in. I feel like there's a real effort, some real momentum to get the 54 into the playoffs, into victory lane. Gibbs has made over 100 career starts now. He's in that sweet spot knocking on the door. Not shocked in the slightest to see Ty Gibbs in Shane Van Gisbergen's shadow late in this race. And then for the second year in a row, Tyler Reddick was the hard charger late. Fuel strategy was questionable for Reddick. He tried to take advantage of a timely caution in stage 2. NASCAR made a couple of questionable calls today. We'll get to the call at the very end in a moment, but the most questionable call was midway through this race when Josh Berry piled into the outside wall. According to some reports, actually bent the wall and had to be put back into place. Hit hard is my point. And then sat there just outside of the racing groove, sat still for a lap and a half. Usually when there's a big wreck like that, NASCAR on a road course will let a few cars trickle on by and then they'll wait and see if the guy can fire it up before the lead pack comes through. Not in this case. NASCAR was asleep at the switch apparently and let the whole field come by for a second time. 30 plus cars, full speed, right through his section before they finally threw the yellow flag. At that point, might as well just leave him there the whole race. Clearly, you don't deem him to be a hazard. But they waited so long that some of the leaders who were on an alternative strategy, like Tyler Reddick, were able to hit pit road. Chase Briscoe was on this strategy. They were able to hit pit road, take advantage of NASCAR being asleep at the switch. And that impacted some of the leaders' pit strategy at the end. Reddick had track position, wasn't sure if they were going to make it on fuel. He opted to pit a final time late, rocketed through the field on fresh tires, got to third. If there had been another restart with 2, 3, 4, 5 laps to go, I think he wins this race. As great as SVG is, Reddick is also a great road racer, had a tire advantage. If he gets one more caution, Reddick probably wins, but we could have said that last year when he was running down Alex Bowman. So close, just a bit too little, a bit too late. Still a great result for Tyler Reddick. Looking for that first win, but at least he pads his playoff bubble points cushion. The rest of the top 5 here. Denny Hamlin blew a motor in the opening laps of practice yesterday. Not a great road racer. In fact, this was his first road course top 5 in 8 races. Okay, that's not so bad, but it was only his second road course top 10 in the entire next gen era. That's more staggering. Great recovery, great resilience from Denny Hamlin and Chris Gale and that whole organization. Finishing 5th, Kyle Busch. You want to talk about resilience? Kyle Busch, Richard Childress Racing are a formidable road course racing opponent. Qualified great, was in the mix, racing inside the top 5 for a bit. Old tires, spun out on a restart again. And then Kyle Busch drove through too many pit boxes, penalized on pit road again. Compounded mistakes, almost took them completely out. I noticed late in stage 2, I don't know if Blaney let Kyle Busch have his lap back or if Kyle Busch was really that much faster. Might have just been, a nice gesture between rivals. Busch got back on the lead lap at the end of stage 2, was able to, catch up to the pack at the start of stage 3, and obviously recovered, charged through the field on fresher tires late to get himself a top 5 finish. Great recovery, great resilience, but damn, Kyle, Randall Burnett, can we put a full race together, please? If they can put a full road course race together, they could win. They could win Sonoma. They could win Watkins Glen. I just can't trust this team to stay out of their own way. Avoid mistakes on pit road. Avoid spinning out. All that being said, I want to end on a positive note. Finishing 5th, overcoming all of that adversity, really impressive. The old Kyle Busch is still in there. He's still in there. We brought him out at the end of this race. That's awesome. AJ Allmendinger, 6th, great road course racer, was in the mix much of the day, just never quite had the pace for SVG, was never quite the lead guy on his strategy. Still a good result. Probably needs to win to make the playoffs. Ryan Preece, a couple of really good road course runs in the last month or so. Good for him. Alex Bowman, the defending Chicago street race winner, comes home 8th. Let's talk about Bowman for a sec. And his old drinking buddy Bubba Wallace here. At TNT, to their credit, with Marty Snyder, did a great walk and talk, co-interview pre-race. Was pretty hilarious. Bowman said after the race he thought that maybe he and Bubba had squashed their beef. Go back to last season. I mean, you could go back earlier. They've had run-ins before. But go back to Chicago 1 year ago. Bowman, checking his switches, trying to turn his windshield wiper on, spins Bubba out. Bowman obviously goes on to win the race. Bubba, on the cool-down lap, gives him a little side swipe, a little hit in the door. I believe Bubba got fined for those actions. Some frustration boiled over. That's all right. I get it. But entering today's race, 1 year later, once again, Bowman and Bubba find themselves in familiar territory, right on the playoff bubble, battling each other for one of the few remaining playoff spots. And they were also battling each other for a spot in the Elite 8, in the in-season challenge, which I know these drivers claim they care little about. I don't know. Bubba and Bowman were racing each other pretty hard at the end there. I think they cared a little. I think they knew they were matched up against each other. I think they cared somewhat. Bubba Wallace, very aggressive. I mean, the contact went both ways, but I feel like Bubba, roughed up Bowman there in the final corner, going down the front straightaway quite a bit. I believe Bubba was on older tires than Bowman at this point as well. He was on defense, but was still trying to play offense very aggressively. Eventually, Bowman and Bubba made contact out of turn 2, I think. It kind of looked to me like Bubba cleared himself, and then Bowman just didn't lift, and Wallace ends up crashed out. Bowman obviously went on to finish top 10. Bubba Wallace ends up 28th. My gosh. Let's look at the playoff bubble real quick, how that impacts things. Now Wallace finds himself +3. That massive cushion he had a couple months ago is gone. You see Buescher lost some spots as well due to the electrical issues. Alex Bowman now +39. I don't think Buescher or Bowman are safe by any means. We could see another winner or two by the end of the regular season. No question. I believe the cut line will move a bit, which only puts Bubba in an even more precarious position. I like Bubba Wallace. I really do. And he started this year off so good. New crew chief, Charles DeKnight, comes over from McDowell Trucks. Big year last year with Christian Eckes. A lot of folks in the garage believe he's the legit guy. He's the next big thing. Joins Bubba Wallace in 2311, and they fired off fast to begin the year. Top 5 speed here, top 5 speed there. But as always, the 23 team has regressed back to the mean. Every year, Bubba Wallace is right around here in points, winless, battling hard mid-pack for every position, getting himself into trouble. Bubba Wallace, I'll say it again, has never made the owners' playoffs. The 23 never made the playoffs. Bubba made the drivers' playoffs one year because Chase Elliott missed 9 races. The 9 car still beat the 23 in owners' points that year. Bubba Wallace has never won a regular season race. His last points win period was over almost 3 years ago now. Bubba Wallace needs to be better. It's as simple as that. And I know some of his fans will rush to his defense and say, oh, well, he's had bad luck. He's been taken out. Every driver deals with bad luck. I often say you make your own luck. What happened today at Chicago, that wasn't bad luck. Wrecking in qualifying, that was not bad luck. That battle with Bowman, no bad luck there. You make your own luck, and unfortunately, Bubba Wallace has not made enough out of this 2311 opportunity, in my opinion. His teammate won the regular season championship last year, was at Phoenix contending for the Bill France Cup. Meanwhile, Bubba has never gotten the 23 into the top 16 in owners' points. He's just not been good enough. I'm not saying he can't be good enough. We've seen enough flashes from Bubba Wallace to tell me he's a legit playoff contender, but he's been far too inconsistent. He's one of those drivers over the next few weeks I believe is under a ton of pressure. Not because I necessarily think his job is in jeopardy. I know Michael Jordan likes him. Sponsors like him. I'm not suggesting 2311 is going to rip up his contract or Nick's future negotiations. I'm not suggesting that. But I know how competitive Bubba Wallace is. I know how badly he wants to succeed, how badly he wants to be great. These next few weeks, time to put up or shut up. It's time to get some consistent results, maybe break through and get that win finally, snap that winless streak. A lot of pressure on Bubba Wallace, and I could say a lot of the same about Alex Bowman. I have said the same about Bowman recently, so I'm not going to zero in on him today. Today I'm zeroing in on Bubba because he finished 28th. Bubba Wallace has to be better. Alex Bowman, Chris Buescher probably need to win to feel secure in making the 2025 NASCAR Cup Series playoffs. The final 15 laps or so of this race were crazy. I think it was the restart with like 12 or 13 to go. Austin Cindric just bowled through the field entering turn 1, almost took out Chastain, and I think Ross got into Logano, or Logano then got spun. He was pissed at Ross after the race. I saw a clip of him talking to Bob Pockers where he said Ross admitted he wrecked him on purpose. So Logano, mad at Ross, he said, do I have the quote written down here? He said, yeah, typical Ross, he sees red and does dumb stuff. That's what Logano said of Chastain post-race, so not too happy with driver of the number 1. One more look at the top finishers here. Logano still rebounded to finish just behind Chastain. I didn't mean to skip over him. Austin Hill. Was this his first start of the year? He's made a few cup starts before, but driving a third RCR car in a rare one-off, 9th place for Austin Hill. Credit to Austin, man. Stayed with it all day. You can see some big names just outside the top 10. Blaney, Logano, Larson, and more. Not pictured, but in 16th, Chase Elliott. I only mention that because Chase Elliott has finished top 20 in every single race this year, and for a little while he had some damage today. It looked like that streak was in jeopardy, but he battled his way forward to get 16th at the end. Unfortunately, he too was eliminated from the in-season challenge. John Hunter Nemechek finished just ahead of him there in 15th, so now that means all 4 of my initial Final Four picks I had in my original Final Four, Kyle Busch, Kyle Larson, Chase Elliott, and Chris Buescher. 2 races in, they're all out. So I don't know, I'm just having fun with it now. Can't take it too seriously. Anyway, those are your top finishers. Couple more mentions real quick. Catherine Legg entered this race in a do-or-die situation, driving for Live Fast Motorsports in the 78, no charter. With 41 cars on the entry list, she had to race her way into the field in qualifying. And Corey Heim, the 2311 Toyota prospect, was her direct competition on Saturday, but Heim got into the wall, bent a rear toe link during his qualifying lap, was able to get that thing back around, but didn't put down a great lap. Catherine Legg was able to wheel her 78 car to, I think, 33rd out of the 38 or 39 cars that made laps. So Catherine Legg, also Josh Bilicki for Garage 66, able to race their way in, qualify their way in, I should say, while Corey Heim, huge upset yesterday, Corey Heim missed the show. Missed opportunity for the young driver to get some important street race experience. Another young driver just overstepping, making a mistake, and it cost him. But anyway, I wanted to give Legg a shout out for finishing 19th today, and Josh Bilicki, again, stayed out of trouble, 21st in the 66. That's pretty cool. We've done a decent job of working our way back chronologically to the end of the race. We already talked about Shane Van Gisbergen, deserving winner 100%, but I know a lot of fans were frustrated that we didn't see a final overtime restart because with 2 laps to go, with the leaders in the final couple of corners, Cody Ware piled his 51 car into the tire barriers in turn 6, smushed the front end of that Arby's Ford. NASCAR could have thrown the caution right away, and that would have forced an overtime restart. SVG and Ty Gibbs would have been side by side with Reddick on fresher tires there in row 2. Would have been a hectic final restart, especially with rain looming. Rain began to fall almost immediately after the checkered, so we may have seen like damp conditions. I don't know if lightning was in the area yet. I'm not sure how overtime would have gone or if we even would have gotten the overtime restart, but if NASCAR had quick triggered the caution, we would have seen an overtime restart. NASCAR sat on the yellow for a few seconds. They waited to see if Cody Ware in turn 6 could get out of the tires before the leaders got there. SVG took the white. By the time he got close, NASCAR had to throw the yellow. Race was over. No overtime. A lot of fans, of course, frustrated, wanted to see another restart. Crazy action. Team chaos. Look, I'm usually one of the first to criticize NASCAR race control and their officiating. They made a couple of questionable calls today. The most questionable call was the aforementioned Josh Berry incident where they let the whole field go by twice before eventually throwing the yellow. That made no sense. That was race control being asleep. But the way they called the end was actually fairly consistent with how they typically call road course races. Typically they do. Again, let a guy who's stuck take all the time he needs to back out. NASCAR doesn't like to throw cautions at road courses because they slow the action down tremendously. Long courses, pace laps are slow, drags things out, kills the pacing. NASCAR typically waits as long as they can to throw a yellow. They don't throw one right away, even for a big incident like that where guys pretty well stuck in there. We've seen these next-gen cars pull away from the tire barriers quite often. So to assume off the bat Cody Ware was stuck is unfair. We've seen guys pull away from that before. But yes, there's an argument to be made on both sides. NASCAR could have been quicker on the trigger. We would have gotten another overtime. But NASCAR waiting as long as they did to throw the yellow is not inconsistent with how they've typically officiated road course races. I have to be completely honest. We can argue if that's the right way to call it, but usually it is. Fans are just frustrated now because it changed the way the race might have ended. With that being said, was the 3rd annual Chicago Street Race a good race? Let's put it on the Groovy Gauge, powered by electric e-bikes. Head to electricebikes.com, find a ride that suits you. This was the first Chicago Street Race to not be impacted by wet weather. No wet weather tires needed. Finally, a clean, conventional street race. I thought it was a good race. Not all time great. It sucked that 2 or 3 of the top contenders had mechanical issues take them out. Like I would have rathered see McDowell and SVG on 2 different strategies, duke it out one-on-one. If Chris Buescher had gotten up into the mix, great, the more the merrier. But because Buescher and McDowell had fluky mechanical problems, we were robbed of those rivalries. Ty Gibbs was good, but he wasn't good enough to really contend. And Reddick had the tires to contend at the end, but didn't quite have the track position. So we never quite got the climactic final battle that we were hoping for, I suppose. But all in all, Pretty good race, not amazing, didn't have the same variables as the previous 2 years where wet weather tires came into play, the races were shortened due to darkness, which flipped strategy on its head in real time. But this was a decent race. I'll go 65% on the Groovy Gauge. Solid, not the most memorable, but I'm glad we got to see a conventional, dry Chicago street race. Not dry in terms of like lack of things to talk about. Plenty to talk about after this race, as I'm proving right now, but dry in the sense of no weather impacting the on-track conditions. That's my score. Let me know if you agree or disagree down in the comment section below. I will say I thought the viewing experience was negatively impacted by TNT's broadcast. I was not a fan of today's broadcast. This was their second broadcast of the summer, and I just felt the booth was a little flat up until maybe the end when there were a lot of things happening. The ambient sound quality, and maybe this is just me because I'm watching through HBO Max. I don't have traditional cable. I have Fubo, which is also kind of streaming, but Fubo doesn't have a deal with TNT, so I had to watch through HBO Max. Maybe it's just an HBO Max problem, but the audio quality, the ambient noise, terrible. It's quiet, it's muffled, it's as bad as Fox. Might even be worse somehow. And then the camera cuts today felt erratic at times. The direction didn't always follow what the booth was trying to talk about. They missed a few moments in real time. It felt like some of the worst Fox broadcasts we've seen this year, where it just felt a little lazy, a little out of touch, a little lackadaisical, and that was disappointing because we can compare this race year to year to NBC, who've covered the last two Chicago street races. I would take both of those NBC broadcasts over what we got today, and I haven't said that the last few weeks about the first TNT race, which I thought was okay, or the 5 Prime Video races, which I thought were phenomenally covered. So I'll just say, yeah, the TNT coverage in general left a lot to be desired. I mean, they went to commercial break as SVG was starting his burnouts. We had to watch the SVG burnouts in side by side, or many of you did. On HBO Max, we got full screen commercials over SVG's initial burnout. So yeah, just not good. It felt like some of the worst, most criticized Fox broadcasts from early in the year. I was disappointed. Overall, I thought today's coverage fell flat. As for the Chicago street race itself, this could be the final one. I read some quotes earlier today. There was one from Kyle Larson in The Athletic earlier this week where he said, "Chicago is probably my favorite NASCAR event each year." That was from Kyle Larson. I thought that was interesting. I saw there was a quote from a Michael Edwards, who's part of the Chicago Loop Alliance. This was in WGN, local reporting. He said, quote, "We would love to see NASCAR come back. We've all figured out how to gain advantage from it, to partake in it, and to make business from it." So I read all those quotes coming into the day, and it made it feel like, okay, like there's still energy here. There's still some momentum to keep this specific street race on the schedule. But I feel like there are a lot of signs behind the scenes pointing towards this being the final Chicago street race. It is expensive, very expensive for NASCAR to put on. And I think I also read in The Athletic that attendance figures, generally speaking, have been a little down from what NASCAR had ultimately hoped for. I noticed this year several grandstand sections were taken out from previous years. There seemed to be more general admission. I saw a lot of crowds in those general admission areas, but actual committed grandstand seating, there was less this year from my perspective. So there's been a lot of talk about San Diego. Could they bring a street race to San Diego? Could that replace Chicago? Could they put Chicagoland Speedway, an hour outside of Chicago, the Oval? Could they put that on the schedule? Does that replace the Chicago street race? It sounds like the 2026 schedule is still fluid. All I can say is that if NASCAR does not return to Chicago, the streets of Chicago, I hope that doesn't mean they abandoned the street course concept entirely. I love the idea of a San Diego street race. Ticks a couple boxes. It's new, it's fresh, brings a race to the fans rather than force the fans to come find the race. It also covers that Southern California market that NASCAR is currently lacking. I would love to see a street race in San Diego. I think that's a great idea. I'd love to see them try it. They've proven they can do it with Chicago. I'm sure they could make it happen with San Diego. Weather would probably be a bit better as well. So I hope the street race concept isn't dead. And I don't think it is. I'm not suggesting that it is. There seemed to be some momentum among drivers this week. Hey, we like Chicago. We like this urban street race concept. I think the racing overall the last 3 years, Cup at Xfinity, has been really good. Wet weather, dry weather. It's been very competitive, action-packed for the most part. Maybe the Chicago street race has run its course, but I hope there's another city, another configuration out there that makes sense, because this concept to me I'm not going to say it's the future. Like NASCAR is ultimately oval racing at purpose-built oval tracks, but street racing has a place. It's part of what will propel stock car racing into this next generation. It resonates more with young people, which NASCAR desperately needs to attract. It's fresh. The possibilities are endless. There are dozens of cities across the country, across the world that could potentially host a street race. It's an awesome concept that NASCAR was able to prove works in Chicago. If this was the final street race in the Windy City, it's been a fun ride. It's been tumultuous at times, but memorable to say the least. I hope there's an impending deal with another city out there to bring something similar to their streets. That's my take on the street race. I know it's not for everyone. I think a Chicagoland oval race next year with the next gen car would probably be thrilling. That would be cool, but I also would love to see a street race still. I think it's a great concept, good action. It's different. It's cool. For lack of a better word, it's just cool. And there are a lot of things about NASCAR, frankly, that aren't always that cool. A street race in a major city, pretty damn cool, especially in the middle of the summer. People are outside. It's pretty cool. So anyway, those are my thoughts. That's it. Wow. Geez Louise, covered a lot in this one. I hope you all had a great 4th of July holiday weekend. Leave a comment down below. What do you think of today's race? While you're down there, leave a like. If you enjoyed, subscribe for more NASCAR news, race reactions, commentary, and more every day, every week, all year long. I'll see you again real soon, folks. Have a great rest of your weekend. Thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you again soon.